Wetwork Media presents Dan Lauer's Post Meridiem, an unreliable memoir of madness in Los Angeles. Part 2, Depression, Chapters 1 through 7. Nothing happens, nobody comes, nobody goes, it's awful. Samuel Beckett, Waiting for Godot. I felt as though I was about to be very thankful that I was assigned to the blue room. The pink room seemed to be inhabited by the stage cast of One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. Only Cheswick and Billy were meth addicts who jabbered incoherently at the wall and looked like they may have killed or raped the corpses of several of their prison cellmates. The pink room was in the north of the facility, and the blue room was to the south. In the middle was the observation area, the fishbowl. At the head of each room, nearest the observation area, which bustled day and night with activity, sat a large wooden desk. Behind the desk, at any given moment, sat two nurses. An orderly stood guard to their left. The room was painted with blue walls. Even then, I thought it was a little on the nose, but I couldn't help myself. It's my blue period, I thought. And though it was a lame, punny double entendre, almost managed a smile. Two police officers were also in the blue room as I was let in. Against the far wall was a row of chairs, and the orderly who was escorting me told me to have a seat at the far end next to one of the hospital beds. On the bed was an elderly woman resting on her left side, facing me. She saw me and reached immediately for my right arm. I pulled away and turned my head to get someone's attention. Fuck, it's starting already. I'll never leave this place alive. This was when I noticed the large black woman sitting in a chair to my far left at the end of the row of chairs. She wore a belly shirt and tight jeans. An enormous, stretch-marked gut hung lewdly over the waist of her ill-fitting apple-bottom jeans and jiggled as she struggled. She was handcuffed to her purse, then the chair through the armrest, and was yelling at the police officers flanking her on either side. Her anger and irrational barking made no sense to anyone. It didn't seem to bother her. I didn't attack that fucking crippled bitch with the ugly kid at the bus stop. She attacked me. I don't know how many times I have to say it. This motherfucker didn't believe me and he dragged me in. I don't want to be here anymore. Let me go, pigs. Let me go, pigs. She stood and the cops moved to stop her, quickly blocking her path. The cops were yelling back at her. Tammy, Tammy, lower your voice. Tammy? Tammy. Her fucking name is Tammy. If I'd had 1,000 guesses over the course of a year, I don't think I'd have ever made it to Tammy. It would have been well below 1,000 on my list. Fuck you, cocksucker, Tammy yelled back and then jerked away. I felt very dizzy. A practical joke it had to be. The woman on the bed grabbed my arm again and asked me something in Spanish. I'm sorry, I don't speak Spanish. What else could I say? It was true. She frowned. No understanding between the two of us. I thought for a moment. High school Spanish class was rushing back. Okay, dig into it. You must remember something. 5th period, room 4B, last row, nearest the window where the cheerleaders practiced. Writing a short story in my well-worn steno book. Fuck. No habla española. She nodded and released my arm with a disgruntled shove. Suddenly, the room was full with the sound of liquid draining onto the linoleum, slowly at first, and then in a great sloppy gush, all at once, and then an additional slight trickle, and finally there was silence. I turned slowly, feeling the scene grind to 48 frames per second, and saw Tammy half squatting above her chair. She spilled her water, I thought. I saw her jeans darken and a large puddle develop on the floor beneath her. Suddenly, and in a single frozen moment of grotesque clarity, I realized that she was not holding a water bottle. My eyes welled with panicked tears as I realized that I just witnessed a grown woman piss herself inside a room in a mental institution in front of 2 nurses, 1 orderly, 2 cops, and 9 patients, who all seemed completely nonplussed by the sight. Just another day on the job for them. whereas my personal boundaries were being actively and purposefully violated. I felt emotionally raped. Dr. Murphy stepped back into the room and walked toward me, never shifting his eyes. He couldn't stand the sight of it any more than I could. He held my file folder, a small paper cup of medication, and a small paper cup of water. I took them from him and motioned for him to come closer, ear to lips. "Am I safe in here?" I asked, looking shocked, and then gesturing with my eyes toward Tammy. He followed my gaze to the screaming banshee. "You fucking pigs, let me piss myself," she lamented in sharp, stinging tones. "I told you I had to use the facilities." The facilities? Did she just say that? Everyone just stood back and furrowed their brow at her. What was there to say? Few moments like that exist among strangers. I dated a girl in college for almost a year and never saw her urinate. I didn't actively fight the opportunity and wouldn't have if it presented itself. It just never happened. "You hear me?" Tammy bellowed. The crazed, cornered, feral beast look in her eyes growing in intensity and the lines on her face pulsing and deepening as every second ticked away. "I fucking pissed myself. I told you, you goddamn dirty cocksuckers, motherfuckers, cunts, cunts, cunts!" Dr. Murphy looked back to me and grinned, soft tones in his voice. "Of course, things will be quieting down a lot a few minutes. Just try to relax." Bullshit. Just try to relax. Don't cry, don't scream. Things will be quiet soon. I wanted to believe him, but I didn't. The first time I was hospitalized for depression, the place was Shangri-La compared to the Blue Room. I checked in with a suitcase full of books and clothes, a Discman, and a flip book full of CDs. I had a room that I shared with one other person. I was 17 or 18. I have a hard time remembering temporal details from that period. Hazy. They let us smoke and we could buy candy and soda. We ordered what we wanted for meals from a list of 5 or 6 choices, prefix. We had a group therapy session and saw the doctor in his private office every day for 30 minutes. We spoke about our problems. We had recreation time. They made us do arts and crafts, which I had a rough time swallowing. But other than that, it was a vacation from the life I found so difficult to navigate. After a week, I left the institution feeling rested and hopeful. My mother picked me up and we went for lunch. Afterward, I went to my girlfriend's place. She was babysitting her younger brothers, and she blew me on the living room couch while we watched Unsolved Mysteries after they went to sleep. Well, I watched. When I came, she instantly ran to the bathroom and spat my semen out. I frowned. I don't necessarily need swallowing to occur. I'm already done. I couldn't feel any better. It's as good as it's going to get, but spitting it out into the sink and then moaning, does nothing to encourage my self-esteem. It couldn't taste that bad, could it? She returned to the couch and lay in the crook of my shoulder, playing with my hair. "I love this moment," I told her. "I love you too," she said. "I love you too," she said. My eyes went wide and I froze, stopped breathing. No, no, no. This is not supposed to happen. And it was such a good moment. Now I'm panicked. Where are the hills? What do I say? Thank you? I can just thank her. Or maybe something to get the point across. Tell her to fuck her mother. Will that work? But I like her. Shit, shit, shit. What now? What do I do? Too soon. Not ready for this. Still sick. Need space. Panic. Head for the hills, man. Get out while you can. It's becoming impossible. You're stuck. You're in trouble. Abort. Abort. This is no good. She lifted her head and grinned at me. "Gotcha," she said, and started laughing. "Oh man, you're going to pay for that," I said, and then I started tickling her. She hated being tickled and could not stop laughing. Eventually, the tickling led to some heavy petting that led elsewhere, and we both ended up sweaty and panting, thoroughly spent, smelling of sex and endorphins. I looked at her when we were finished and smiled. "I'm pretty sure I love you too," I told her. She smiled and started to cry a little. Did anyone ever have it so good? Was anyone ever so young? Will I ever again? A resort, asylum, a free meal. Robert Stack's deep, hollow voice and a semi-professional mouth on my penis, and a little love between kids. Love was a good thing back then. It was real and fair. I understood it. I'll just shrug and wonder aloud what else I could ever need out of life. Ziprasidone is a psychiatric drug Pfizer Incorporated markets under the brand name Geodon. Oh, bring me back down to earth. The paper cup that Dr. Murphy handed me contained 1 Geodon capsule, 1 Prozac capsule, and 2 strange pink capsules. What are the pink ones? Restoril, 100 milligrams. A little something to help you sleep. I looked up at him with eyes that begged, will it work? A quick smile and a nod. I did my best to feel reassured as I emptied the contents of the little paper cup into my mouth and chased them with the little paper water cup. I had never taken Restoril before. Its name does it justice. In no more than 15 minutes, I was having trouble keeping my eyes open. I did not have a bed yet, so I was sitting in a chair, nodding in and out like a junkie that had just spiked. I felt myself smile occasionally for no reason. My head was aloft. Strange things were humorous. I felt calm, numb, dead. Before that moment, sometime in the distant past, I gave someone my mother's phone number. I don't remember who that person was. I hoped it wasn't Tammy. Am I talking right now? Someone came to me and asked in a bouncy, reverberating voice if there was someone who needed to know I was there. I gave them my mother's phone number and asked them to ask her to call my roommate, whose number I did not have memorized. This was the recent downside of cell phones. I didn't have to memorize numbers anymore. The numbers I know by heart have been the same since I was a kid. This includes my mother's. A payphone was ringing somewhere in the distance and someone shouted, "Is there a Dan here?" I raised my hand in slow motion. "I'm a Dan." "For you," they said, and I stood and made my way towards the sound of the voice somewhere in the distance. The phone receiver was attached to a very short cord. I am not very tall, but tall enough that I had to lean and bend my knees to use the phone comfortably. It took me longer than it should have to realize why there would be a short phone cord in a psychiatric facility. I am too stupid to have survived so long. "Hello?" I asked the phone. A voice somewhere in the darkness that sounded a lot like my mother asked me how I was doing. The voice was calm and soothing. I liked the tone of it. "Fine," I said as my forehead bumped against the wall and I jumped back. And then I was staring at a spot in the blue that seemed to be coming alive. Pinpoints of light danced on the chip blue paint. "I was doing fine." "Did they give you something to sleep?" The voice that sounded like my mother asked. "Who did?" My mother sighed, resigned to the fact that the drugs had overtaken me, and then told me quickly and pointedly that she loved me. John knew where I was and had the numbers to call. Great. She was also going to let my father know I was there. Perfect. None of this registered to me as anything other than disparate, guttural noises, though not altogether unpleasant to hear, so I smiled. All the sounds and words meant something individually, but I couldn't connect them together to form sentences, no matter how hard I tried. My forehead bumped into the wall again. On the knot again. "Okay," I told her, and began to hang up. "I love you," she said, and I said something like, me too, before finally replacing the receiver with the short cord on its cradle. Don't take drugs. Ever. I am still haunted by the hazy images, even so long since. A large, sterile room with a light overhead and people poking and prodding, shoving instruments into my orifices. It was horrible. There were people behind a large sheet of glass talking to me over a public address system, which reverberated loudly through the room, which in my mind's eye seemed circular and covered in bright blue tiles. I must have been about 2 years old. I remember feeling isolated and strained, strapped to a gurney, my hands and feet restrained, tears streaming down my face. Someone with half the intellect, or twice the imagination might misconstrue this experience as evidence of extraterrestrial visitation, but I don't think it's that. My mother was also there behind the glass telling me to relax. She's not an alien. She's talking to me, though. I hear her voice in my head. Calm down, stop crying, take a breath. My pants are down around my ankles, and I can see my little infantile prick laying flaccid on my hairless groin, a long tubular wire leading into my urethra with a needle point on the end inserted all the way down. The pain is fierce and throbbing in huge waves, overtaking my thoughts and short-circuiting my young psyche. I couldn't put a name to the experience, but I knew it was a bad thing. This is a violation. There couldn't possibly be any good reason for this to be happening. I would want my mommy, but she's complicit in the proceedings. There she is, behind the glass with more fish in white coats, peering at me curiously, monitoring machines, making apparatus blink and chirp. She said, "Try to relax, Dan. You're going to be fine. I'm hyperventilating. I'm in pain and totally exposed to strangers. This is the most vulnerable moment I've experienced since I was born, but I don't remember being born. It must have happened during a psychotic episode." Over and over again, I repeat, "Take it out, take it out, take it out." These come in rapid fire, muffled under huge, raspy breaths. Another voice crackles across the PA, and this time it's a male. "This is the leader. He's in control. This is the mothership. Do not adjust your eyes, little Dan. He is in control. We can do whatever we wish now." "Daniel, if we take it out, we'll have to start all over again," the voice said. Behind him, I hear my mother struggle towards the microphone. "No," she said, "just pee, Dan, just pee. Just pee. That's all they want from me. My penis is lying in the cold air. My pants are off. People are staring at me. They want me to piss all over myself. This goes against every preternatural instinct I have. By now, I've been housebroken. I haven't pissed all over myself since I'm 1.5. On any other occasion, I would be heavily reprimanded for doing so. There'd be a lot of browbeating and bad noise, and I'd be punished. Now I'm being punished for refusing. The searing pain in my little cock is ever growing, and I'm crying so hard I can't see straight. "Take it out, take it out, take it out!" I'm screaming. And then suddenly it's all over, and I'm wet and cold, and I'm sitting in a warm bath, and my mother is washing me. I must have passed out. I must be remembering this incorrectly. I don't remember any other part of it. Perhaps I blocked it out. Perhaps I made it up. Perhaps it's some sort of Freudian para-Oedipal complex fantasy. Punishment, sexual organs, mother, it's all there. But the memory is so vivid that it must have happened. It must be real. I have considered from time to time broaching the topic with my mother, but for whatever reason, be it shame, embarrassment, or modesty, I never remember to bring it up. Regardless, the vision is always with me, always will be the first real attention paid to my manhood. People in glasses and white coats with clipboards and machines beeping and me screaming and crying, "Take it out, take it out, take it out." There are likely better ways to begin to fortify a sexual identity. My penis is evil. It causes me pain. I'm surprised I'm as well adjusted as I am. And again, maybe I'm not at all. Perhaps every one of my sexual encounters has echoed that first one in some bizarre fashion. Only I'm not the one crying, and I'm not the one begging to be penetrated. Montana Wild Hack said, "They're playing with the clocks again," as she breastfed our child, and it was true. She could always tell when I'd been time traveling. I was lying on a small, thin, padded cot only inches off the disgusting linoleum floor. The lights in the room were out, and everyone was sleeping except for Tammy and I. I was not sleeping because I was fighting the medication, and my head wouldn't stop replaying scenes from the last 12 hours on a continuous loop, mocking me. The only movement in the room was Jackie, the absentee nurse whom Dr. Murphy was so angry with hours earlier. She's a large black woman and has been called in to talk some sense into Tammy, who has been screaming nonsensically for the last 2 hours. Watching Jackie communicate with an obviously crazed and stoned Tammy was like watching an elegant boxer weave around a weakened opponent. Jackie speaks the language, and whether she or I or anyone else likes it or not, she was dancing with Tammy on her level. "Cocksucking motherfucking faggots made me piss myself. They did, right over there. Girl, you gotta stop talking that mess. It ain't doing no good, Kay?" Tammy nods and puts her head down. What does that look? Is it shame? Is Jackie really attempting to shame Tammy into behaving? Why didn't anyone else think of that? Jackie and Tammy are arguing about Tammy taking a shower. She wants to and needs to, as she is still wearing her piss-soaked jeans and reeks of it. The part of me that isn't terrified of her pities her. Wet denim. When I was a kid, I fell into my backyard swimming pool wearing jeans. It was the most uncomfortable I'd ever been, right up until this moment now. Do you have to watch my naked ass in the shower? Tammy asks, gathering soap and shampoo from Jackie's outstretched hands. Girl, nobody wants to look at your naked ass. I'm standing in there, but I ain't looking. Go on, push her, I think. It's your funeral, woman. Why? Tammy leans forward a little and menaces Jackie all over again, eyes black like an insect's and mouth grimaced in a threatening snarl. 'Cause we got rules here. You ain't gonna come into my house and just start making up your own shit, are you? There are ways we do things and there are ways we don't. You have to follow the rules, else this ain't gonna run smooth, 'kay? Tammy nods. Yes, of course, you were talking sense, but she can't contain the simmering explosion in her head and quickly erupts again. But I need special motherfucking shampoo. We only got one kind of shampoo. Jackie starts, but Tammy slaps the wall and starts yelling again. God damn, I have my own fucking shampoo because I have delicate hair. They wouldn't stop at my place. I even told them I needed the shampoo before they drugged me here. Will you let me finish my sentence? Girl, you gotta stop. Jackie sighs and sort of half laughs, a dismissive, frustrated laugh. She's clearly had enough of Tammy's shit. We only have one kind of shampoo, but if you're nice, and I mean nice, next time I come back on shift, I'll bring you some shampoo from home for the delicate hair. Sarcasm oozing from the edges of the sentence. But I need mine, Tammy whined. She was oddly entitled sounding for a full-grown woman standing in a psych ward in piss-soaked jeans, shouting and slapping the walls, coming off like a petulant child bemoaning her loss of a personal space and belongings, growing ever more belligerent over a situation she was herself responsible for. People like her drive me up the wall, and a big part of me wants to scream at her to shut the fuck up. But I don't have a death wish, and I don't want her to know I'm awake and listening. If I moved a muscle, I was sure she would be on me in a flash, sinking those gnarled purple nail extensions into my eye sockets and clawing out my baby blues while wailing incoherently about how she has sensitive skin and can't settle for mini bars of Irish Spring. I don't want to die like that. Girl, we got the same black hair. We'll get your nappies taken care of, okay? Jackie says. Tammy just nods, then sighs, and then suddenly it was over. Now come on, get in there, Jackie coaxed her. The lion tamer, easing the beast back into its cage. They step into one of the two bathrooms on the eastern wall across from where I'm laying, pretending to sleep. The one on the left is a half bath. The one on the right is a full, complete with a shower stall that is no doubt irrevocably stained with the pain, suffering, and misery of thousands upon thousands of indigent head cases and freaks who'd been locked up in the blue room at one point or another. Ghosts of each of those moments haunt those rooms. The door closes behind them and there is silence in the room. Good, but not in my head. Bad. This is the moment to collect my thoughts, difficult as it has become, with the psychoactive drugs coursing through my body. Irrelevant for the time being. Ignore the horror on the other side of the room behind the unlocked bathroom door. Two black women fighting over shampoo brands. None of this is happening. It's one enormous cocktail of delusions and vivid hallucinations brought on by drugs I don't remember taking, coalescing in a perfect storm of insanity. I'm a writer. I am simply conjuring all of this out of thin air with spells and incantations on the walls of my brain. Did you forget about me? The extraterrestrial hitchhiker asks in a quiet voice, very quiet. The feeling of its presence is weakening as the drugs dig their heels in. We haven't spoken in quite a while. Yes, that's the point of all this. But it won't work. Yes, it will. I'm not listening to you anymore. Bullshit. You're listening to me right now. Tammy and Jackie are in there talking about you. They're part of it too, you know. That shampoo diatribe was all staged. Just to throw you off the scent, but it didn't work. No, it didn't work. Let's go back to the zoo. There's good people watching there. We watch them. They watch us right back. Correct. I don't want to talk to you anymore tonight. Very well. When shall we two meet again? In thunder, lightning, or in rain? I ignore the question and close my eyes. No Macbeth references this evening. Too heavy and too apropos. When was the last time I'd closed my eyes? It had been somewhere on the order of 90 hours. 90 hours, nearly 4 days straight of sundowns and sunups unbroken by rest. If you're not already psychotic, 90 hours without sleep will get you very, very close. It was quiet then, both in the room and in my head. Let the Restoril do its thing. Stop fighting so hard. I begin to give in. Let us drift off of this horrible path and fall softly into the undying beauty of eternal sleep. Even semi-eternal would suffice. Quiet, still. I am starting to fade. Every once in a while, someone who attempts to commit suicide by jumping off the Golden Gate Bridge survives. Each of them, to a person, has said that the moment they took that running leap or final step and began plummeting towards the rolling bay below, they regretted the decision. A few seconds previous, life had been an unbearable minefield, so thick and full of poison and pain that ceasing to exist was the preferable option. But during the handful of seconds it takes to fall 700 feet from a bridge and impact the water, they were capable of introspection. Nothing in their lives was really that bad. Regret must collide with their thoughts like a head-on freight train, and there is nothing to be done about it. No more options. The inverse. If they're lucky, they'll survive with too many broken bones to count, and an embarrassing story people will likely not ask to hear. If not, their last frenzied moments on this mortal coil will be filled with a single wish. Oh, please. A second chance. I made my decision that day. It was not to leap off the tallest bridge I can find, but as I lay here, trying to let sleep overtake me, I am filled with desperation. I have to get out of this place as soon as possible. Right after I sleep for a while. I just need to rest. I was nearly there. "Welcome to the Blue Room!" a voice shrieked somewhere in the darkness. I seldom remember my dreams, but for a long time, though, I experienced a recurring one where I had an affair with my therapist and we shared intravenous narcotics. Only it wasn't my therapist, not really. Memory fades. It is hard to describe. She was also a politician in the dream, some sort of maniacal despot. She wanted me and I wanted her back. It was very, very wrong. And I think that's why I awoke from the dream panting and sweating with excitement each time. I defiled her sickening Fellini-esque visions if he'd orchestrated the proceedings at an orgy during the height of the Caligulan depravity. Perhaps it was innate of the Zen notion of gaining ultimate independence. Destroy your teacher, destroy your therapist, destroy your parents and your God. Be free. On the other hand, maybe it was because it was super naughty and hot. Even more so with the rig in my arm. Did I fuck her just to get the drugs? Did she fuck me just to have someone to share them with? Fade in. Interior. The ministress's chamber. Night. The ministress is on the floor with the Lauer, twirling her heavy curls of black hair around a single long pale finger like a witch's claw. She is nude, other than a thin, G-shaped panty made of strands of neat little pearls. The Lauer, does that hurt your cunt? The ministress, nothing much could anymore. The Lauer, I lost time again, have we fucked? The ministress, yes, I called you in for a poke and a parlay. The Lauer, do I have the madness now? Fucked on the sauce? The ministress, no madness ever. The ministress begins to pinch her left nipple and moan. Scattered around them are leaflets and flyers reading, "Join the Humanity Party today! Rid the world of monsters and machines. The end is nigh." The Lauer, voiceover, "This woman controls the world." The ministress, "How are you doing on money, honey?" The Lauer, "Fine." The ministress, "Fine. We need to talk about relocation." Standing, she begins to put her clothes on. Her breasts heave, huge pendulums, her bra, an iron closet to the cold, moist flesh of her chest. The Lauer, "Why is that?" The Lauer is fully clothed, still spread eagle with his zipper open. The Lauer voiceover. Not sure how she got the drop on me with my clothes on. The Ministress. I redressed you after you passed out. Post-coital numb. Panic on the Lauer's face. The Lauer. You're in my head, aren't you? The Ministress rolls a long black stocking up her tree trunk leg. Amazon woman. The Lauer. They're all over this place, no wonder. Many elections have been stopped on this moon due to the crashing blows of the Amazons, all their force, vocal and otherwise, coming down at once and doing a few things at the same time, and alternately either blowing the rest of us down or turning the rest of us on. Huge fucking erections, impossible to walk or keep your foothold. I dig powerful women. The Ministress. I'm rather surprised you didn't know that already. I thought you were smarter than that. The Lauer. But you're in my head. How could you be mistaken? The Ministress thinks for a moment. Her lips curl and her nose scrunches. She's not that attractive when she thinks. But then, that's true of all the vicious Amazons. The Lauer voiceover. Better leave the thinking to the pixies. They pull it off in a much prettier way, or at least it's pretty to think so. The Ministress stands long and invisible in the sunken doorway. Roots of flowers begin to take shape and frame her, twisting gnarled fingers around her face, and she smiles. Here to show off her power just a little. Oh, and her new tattoo. The Ministress. I just got it. Do you like it? The Lauer voiceover. It means something about being strong in the Martian language. I don't understand. Cool fingers around my throat, spinning pictures and zoetropes on the ceiling. I see flashing frames of a Western scene. Cowboy man gets what's coming to him. Woman at the door has nothing much to say. The Ministress. Back to business. Relocation. It's getting dangerous for you around here. The Lauer. Tell me something I don't know. She laughs. The Ministress. You're being targeted for termination by the Neo-Humanity Council. They have you in their sights. It won't be long before you're another greased burner, pieces here and there on some lonely highway. The Lauer grimaces and grunts. The Lauer, there ain't no lonely highways on this moon no more. The Ministress hears him but pays no mind and is now fully clothed. Her black dress seems to billow in the wind like a cape, plunging neckline, all cleavage and bosom, but there's no wind. Her formidable figure casts deep shadows on his face. The light behind her burns a million nuclear holocausts. The Lauer squints to make out her features, forgetting what she looks like already. The Lauer, voiceover, facial recall is for the nervosa, not for the burners. I can't get attached to faces. You're prettier when you're concerned than when you're calm. She curtsies. No easy time for the Amazons. The Ministress, you're a charmer. You know I think so. She has a new tan from the mid-moon beaches, big tan lines on the pubis and breasts, two-piece. One can only imagine the size of that bikini, but won't try for long. The Ministress, that's why I don't want to see you get hurt. The Lauer, I can't get hurt. I want to struggle to feel, but cannot. It's the sauce, too strong, a mixture, not cut with the usual effervescence and lysergia. They have a good stash on Avenue B. I'll make it a habit from now on for sure, but not the habit. Try to get it free, on the house, comped, gratis, from now on. Use my celebrity a bit. Cut 2. Exterior, rose garden, moments later. They walk through the garden. The living roses bend to their touch. The moon casts a pallor on the scene. The Ministress. Do you want to take a walk in my garden? The Lauer. Is that a euphemism? The Ministress. You are a silly boy. I like that you are silly. The Lauer. I like being silly. The Ministress. I don't know what you mean. The Lauer frowns. The Lauer. That's too bad. Nobody pays much attention. They walk in the garden, just strolling. The Lauer keeps his hands laced behind his back and steps one foot in front of the other. The Lauer. It took some hefty, epic maneuvering just to get to his feet. Once there, had to balance on the Ministress's shoulders for quite a few feet. Now I'm okay. Now I'm feeling well. Now I'm feeling swell. We walk and talk and chat and rap, and it's a real gas. and I'm digging on her, even though I don't know what that really means. The ministress, where would you like to go? The Lauer, I don't know. The ministress waves away the thought in disgust. The ministress, I already know where you want to go. Don't bother lying or pretending. The ministress leans down to smell a Tangier rose bush, just one bloom, and she inhales deep and closes her eyes, and when she realigns, her pupils are enormous and have swallowed her deep orange irises, and she snarls at him like some kind of monster. The Lauer withdraws. The ministress, don't forget, I'm here with you. The fever isn't reality in the strictest sense of the word. We all manifest what we want, don't we? But back on the moon, you need to be somewhere else. The city just isn't safe anymore. You served your purpose, and we commend you, and I like your prick in me, but no longer. Alas, she cried for days on end, and no one else ever tickled her again. The ministress smiles, evil grin. The Lauer, now you're lying. You will forget me as soon as I'm gone. The Lauer tries to smile at her, but his mouth won't work, all gummed up. Side effects, cottonmouth, limp dick, starlight in my periphery, intense fever dreams, jittering darting of the eyes, back and forth, back and forth. The ministress clicks her tongue on the roof of her talented mouth and runs her fingers through the Lauer's hair. The ministress, I have the disease, kiddo. I will be forced to remember you. And you didn't pity me now until this moment right now. Beat. Will you vote for me? The Lauer, I don't think they have the polling plazas where I'm headed. The ministress, where is that? The Lauer shrugs, tired of the game. The Lauer, if you already know, why ask? She smiles and touches one of her long fingers to the tip of his nose. The ministress, because I'm post-symptomatic. The Lauer, voiceover, and now the fever is about to break, and I'll be sweating for hours and days and die in a heap somewhere, bawling my eyes out. Motherfucker. 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 Fade to black. An announcement blasts over the Blue Room's PA in a booming baritone voice. Attention! Achtung! Dr. Freud is off the reservation. I wake up confused and painfully groggy, brain encased in cement, head covered by a wet blanket, mouth dry, joints stiff, bowels screaming, and relatively certain that I didn't dream. Not last night. My eyes won't cooperate and seem glued shut. Where the fuck am I? There are no lights yet, just a cold darkness, and beyond, where the fish in white coats swim around the fishbowl in figure eights and keep an ever-watchful eye on the doomed, there is a single glowing desk lamp. Activity in the fishbowl at all hours. Filing paperwork, getting meds, eating lunch and breakfast and dinner, letting the mashed potatoes get so cold. I am still on a thin padded cot on the floor, just under the payphone with the short cord, sweating profusely and unable to get comfortable on my stomach because I hadn't taken off my glasses for fear of losing them. I sleep half on my side, half on my stomach, curled up, all fetal. Still in utero, so to speak. Take from that what you will, but it's not edible. Scout's honor. All through the night, they kept admitting new patients. Most of them didn't come in like I did. Most of them came dragged in by cops, handcuffed in front of their stomachs, protesting the whole way, making horrible noises. It was impossible to sleep there unless you were heavily medicated. I was, but still found it impossible. At the 6 o'clock hour, the lights went on, bright and torturous. They killed my eyes and savaged my brain. At 6:30, breakfast was served, cold eggs and slimy bacon, milk and orange juice, all on a styrofoam tray. Grits, cereal, no tables. You can eat on your bed. Styrofoam? In California? Tammy was removed from our room sometime during the night. She wouldn't stop shouting. Apparently, other than the blue and pink rooms, there is an adolescent facility, so they relocated her there. Say a silent benediction for those who encountered Tammy just once, even for a moment. I hope the reason for the move was that the adolescent ward was empty. I couldn't bear the image of a child having to endure that scene. I tried not to think about it. I simply could not bear any more sadness. I also had my fingers crossed that no children in the greater Los Angeles area tried to off themselves that morning. If they did, Tammy would be stampeding back towards the general population. Please, God, no. Meanwhile, I still don't have my own bed, so I sit on one of the plastic chairs lining the far wall and do my best to pretend to eat. Actually, consuming this food is as close to impossible as anything had been in a long time. While undertaking that pantomime, I also take the insanity roll call. Tammy is gone, but other crazies remain on the call sheet. Carnival music plays in my head. Send in the clowns. It's a few discordant bars from a musical adaptation of The Brothers Karamazov, set to shuffle. I'd rather face the Grand Inquisitor than this. Bed number 1 is a 30-year-old Hispanic man named Jordan. Jordan has been here over 50 times. He is a horrible alcoholic. Comes in stuttering and tripping on his own sweat and vomit. They put him in for 3 days, then he gets sprung and hits the bars, gets stupid, makes the same mistakes over and over again. He has a 1,000-yard stare about him like a veteran or a traveling lipstick salesman. He didn't eat either. Jordan just stared at nothing in particular and never seemed to move. Bed number 2 is a tragic punk rock princess. She is around 21, 22, and has tattoos and holes where piercings and rings were before they were removed when she was admitted. She wears a black Dare t-shirt and baggy pajama pants with the baby character from Family Guy stenciled all over them. There was a strange dichotomy at work there. She was pleasantly cute and sort of dirty looking, dirty little girl, and all of it disturbed me, not because I found it sexy, but because I didn't. She had bags under her eyes and a mouth that hung perpetually open, frozen in an awful frown. Her name was Mary. Bed number 3 was a 70-year-old Russian man who knew only 4 English words. They were mother, brother, telephone, and yes. Boris repeated these words over and over again for hours on end. The volume and intensity of his inflection rapidly increased as he became more and more confused and agitated. We grew to fear Boris, each in our own way, and everyone in the room shouted at him to shut up at one point or another. At other moments, he was complacent and quiet and just smiled, an empty smile, a sad smile, nothing behind the eyes. Bed number 4 sat directly across from me. She must have been a stripper or a high-class call girl. She didn't belong there, and in her own little way belonged there more than any of us. She wore tight lace clothing and no bra. Her enormous breasts shook and jiggled with each movement, sure to topple her slight frame at any moment, stiff breeze or otherwise. I couldn't stop looking, but it was not sexual. I was staring at a Picasso in a gutter, or an American Beauty rose springing up from a styrofoam coffee cup at the crest of a mountain of garbage in a rancid landfill. I couldn't look away. Her name was Julie. Julie had the sweat of hundreds of guys all over her. I could smell it on her. It made me frown more than the bandages on each of her wrists. Bed number 5 was an older woman named Gloria. She was insane. And I mean insane. She was incapable of making any kind of sense and spoke to each of us alternately and said the same thing repetitively, to me, to them, one by one, as if she was hoping she'd find a person who was either crazy enough or sane enough to understand what she was trying to express. Gloria didn't have a chance. Her mind was gone, and this was just another lonely stop on her own personal underground railroad towards the very, very end. It's an institution forever for Gloria. She doesn't know enough to know she should hate it. She doesn't know anything. Gloria, Gloria. Then, sitting on a plastic chair, was a caricature sketch of the former Dan Lauer. Whoever this hollow-looking fuck with the red eyes and greasy hair is, he has nothing to do with me. I'll just pretend he doesn't exist. Then why is he wearing my Fender Guitars t-shirt? And why does he look like he died and forgot to lay down? Between 7 and 10 in the morning, the television was on, mounted on the far wall, bending on the joint under the weight of the ancient boxy contraption, the likes of which I hadn't seen in eons. The channel kept changing, but I saw no one holding a remote. There were 3 magazines for the entire room to share. One of them, the one I was reading, was an architectural digest. Apparently, Brad Pitt had done some good work in New Orleans post-Katrina, or at least he had in 2007 when the issue was published. I'd read the same paragraph 5 times and still had no fucking idea what it said. The meds were still working. I was totally numb. I felt greasy and disgusting. I wanted to shower, but I didn't have a change of clothes and would not wear one of the hospital gowns. Would not. After about an hour of silence, Julie came over and sat next to me on one of the plastic chairs. I could smell her sweat and desperation. My skin tingled from the proximity. I saw you looking at me. It was not a confrontational tone, but it felt aggressive on my end. I'm sorry. I looked away. No more eye contact. It's okay. She sounded like she tried to smile. Is it the bandages? I nodded. Did you try to kill yourself too? I shook my head. No, I was just thinking about it. I paused for a long time. A lot. Do you want to talk about it? She asked and got a little closer. There is no way she's coming on to me right now. No way. This is too much. I don't think that's it. Perhaps I'm just the most normal looking person here. Perhaps I'm safe. Maybe this is instinct. She marked me for a rube, but I have nothing. No dollar bills to put in her G-string, no blow, no move to the champagne room. Just no. My kids will be worried, she said. I frowned. I didn't want to have the conversation at all. At all. Don't bring the kids into it. Oh yeah? I asked in spite of myself. How many do you have? 33 this year, she said and sighed. I'm sure my mouth was hanging open and open, catching flies. You have 33 kids? How is this possible? She half-heartedly laughed. It was labored. Oh, I see. I'm a first grade teacher. I have 33 students this year. That's a lot. She waited a perfect beat. That's a lot. A teacher. She's a teacher. Good, liberal, middle-class white boy, sensitive, depressed, open-minded, and welcoming to all faiths, creeds, belief structures. I passed judgment on a teacher suffering from depression because she had nice tits and a tight ass. And we were both sitting in Los Angeles. Julie patted the chair next to my leg and I turned to look at her. She looked me in the eye, concern and nothing else all over her face, and shrugged at me. I really hope you'll be okay. Then she moved back to her bed, and I felt sick and disappointed in myself, and I wondered who planned the moment and how long it took to pull off. She must have been in on it. The timing was perfect. Catalyzing moments like that come but once every lifetime. I'm staring down the barrel of a new one every few hours. Everything is so wrong. I'm broken. I need my mother. I want to go home. I wonder if I was just too young to notice having a teacher as incredibly sexy as Julie. I certainly don't remember. When do girls go from gross, strange little buckets of gossip to the total focus of our attention? It has to be a gradual switch. There must be a catalyzing experience. The first time you notice tits on a girl in your class. What are those, you wonder? And why can't I stop looking? I'm 26, and the answer still hasn't come. I'm assuming it never will. The sensation is so driving and yet so confusing. I feel like an animal in those moments. Just point and grunt. A monosyllabic retard. Me want those. I lost my virginity to one of my best friends in the boiler room of a country club clubhouse near the pool. It was at the after party of my friend Brian's bar mitzvah. Jackie and I were very close, and we got too close that night. Don't lose your virginity at 13. Little life lessons you just need to know from birth. Save it for when it'll be good. She cried. I can still remember the sound. First, I got a real bug up my ass and just kissed her. She kissed me back. 3 minutes later, Jackie and I were busy losing our virginities to each other. I was on top, thrusting feverishly. Having passed the point of Jackie's initial pain, it was slow and tender at first, but now I was putting to good use what I had seen in my father's porno tapes. I was in paradise. She was willing to tolerate the situation. She cried the entire time, so I'm still not sure if it was from the initial pain or from the experience itself as a whole. It wasn't that it didn't matter to me, it did. It's just that my mind was elsewhere. We both finished, which seems a minor miracle, and then lay side by side, sweaty and naked, pubic hair matted and wet, breathing heavily, faces and sex organs flushed with blood and post-coital endorphins, and tried to think of something to say. Jackie was busy wondering what to say to me to reassure me that she had indeed been ready, and what had just occurred was the way she dreamed it would be. I was busy wondering what kind and romantic thing to say to Jackie to guarantee that she would let me fuck her again soon. I too was coming up empty, so to speak. We lay there for hours and didn't say a word. We each found the experience to be equally delightful and as intimate as we had imagined, but that was part of the problem. Once that threshold of intimacy is surpassed for the first time, one grows to feel exposed, very exposed. It is akin to the sensation of removing your clothes in front of a room full of people, vulnerable, self-conscious, terrified, only 1,000 times more potent. We felt it, and we were unable to think of anything to say to each other ever again. So we didn't. Jackie could never come to grips with me having been inside her. I could never come to grips with having been inside Jackie. That's all there was to it, really. If you're enjoying Post Meridiem and just cannot get enough of a good thing, it is available for pre-order now as a beautiful ebook available from Amazon and Apple Books. The ebook version of Post Meridiem includes additional content, illustrations, and even an additional fifth part not included in the free audiobook version. Search for Post Meridiem and Dan Lauer on Amazon or Apple, or visit wetworkmedia.com/post-meridiem for more information.